Okay.
Perfect.
Let's get in here and do it. It's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, before we get into your life as a life coach, I want to begin with this. The thing that changed all of our lives dramatically was the COVID time period.
Mm,
How did you get through that era, and how did it influence the way that you work and live today?
gosh. Probably a little less dramatically than a lot of people. Definitely compared to some of the folks I wound up working with, that was a pivotal moment for them. But for me, I had been working in a job at that point just to have a job. Um, just because being at home had gotten just after years of being a career, a couple of years of just being at home had just didn't sit well with me. So I got a job just to have a job
Yeah.
and found out that I couldn't just have a job to have a job. I needed to have a job where I felt like I was doing something for people, that I was making an impact. And all that time at home with COVID gave me an opportunity to dig deeper into that, to slow down from the hustle bustle of just doing everything I was doing, to do some soul searching and do for myself what I do for a lot of my clients. What do you like? What do you not like? If you could have your perfect situation, what would that look like? How can you start to make that happen? Um, and got a really more of an opportunity to walk myself through that process than I might have if the world hadn't slowed down for a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have a life coach? Have you had one?
I have had a life coach, and I mean, my opinion is biased or not, we could all use that help at one point or
Huh?
another.
Yeah.
We may get that kind of support from friends and loved ones, um, which is great, but to have that kind of neutral person who's solely there for us to really kind of talk through these things, for us to problem solve through these things. Um, it, it has just a much bigger impact.
It almost seems like a more active version of a therapist in your life. To
In
a
a lot
certain
of ways, yes.
Yeah, to a certain degree. It's like there's that level of anonymous. You're not subjectively tied to all of these things, but they're just looking in there like you would analyze a sport or, chess moves. This is what you should do based on who you are, those kinds of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And coaches, life coaches come in all different varieties and flavors and approaches and such. But when somebody asks me what is the difference, that's kind of what I go to is, to me, coaching is more action oriented than simply processing through thoughts. And it's about, what am I going to do? Not just what am I going to keep thinking about maybe doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to have that person who pushes you along when you're kind of starting to stall out, who helps you celebrate the little gains so that you don't get discouraged that you're not at the big gain yet. Um, those are very impactful things that take us from being where we are to where we really would rather prefer to be.
So let's begin in the beginning and find out how we got here. When you were a kid, what was your dream job? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh gosh, I probably had a flavor of the moment every other day. But when I was a kid, I was really into music and plays and that type of thing. And so, kind of little kid thing was that I was going to do something in that world.
Yeah.
Um, that was short-lived. And of course, it's like you get to the practical part of life and like, oh, maybe that's not so practical. Um, but what the common thread was for me along the way, regardless of whatever dream job I was contemplating, was interacting with others, being there to help and support others, whether it was just being a friend's confidant or taking the lead on something that I saw was stalling out. Um, those were the things that attracted me. So when school came along and college came along, and it was kind of like, well, what are you going to do with your life kind of thing? It was, what can I do that I find interesting that will allow me to support others and find that need and make sure it's being addressed.
So are you originally from Arlington?
No, I am not. I lived in Brooklyn, New York
Okay.
until I was 13,
Okay.
and we came to Texas when I was 13. And but along the way, I took a stint up in Minnesota for 9 to 10 years, was up there going to schools, hung around for a while, then came back to Texas.
Okay. My dad grew up in Brooklyn and then moved to Long Island. So I
Okay.
heard a lot of stories about that the 50s era there. So I'm curious, growing up in Brooklyn, what did you see around you? What were the seeds that were planted that early on made you want to get into singing and entertainment and then pivot to something a little bit more practical, so to speak? How did all of those seeds get harvested and become who you are today?
Gosh. Well, I always assumed that that's just how it was for everyone. Growing up where I did, New New York is about music and theater and all of that. The elementary school that I went to was named after the composer and director Arturo Toscanini.
Yeah.
We had a big auditorium in the school, and every class was required every year to do some kind of production for the rest of the school. That was just, to me, that was what you just do. And I enjoyed that aspect very much. And carried, even after we left New York, I found out once we moved here that things are different, but still carried on with music and production in a different way than I had imagined when I was younger. And it really helped, if nothing else, to build my confidence, um, and to build my perseverance. You just sometimes you got to keep trying and practicing things until they turn out the way you want them to. The risk taking and putting yourself out there, not knowing if it's going to succeed or fail. And being able to now, my current job, get up in front of groups of any size and not be incapacitated by that fear of talking in front of strangers.
Yeah.
So it was invaluable, not just a lot of fun, but built a lot of great skills that, yeah, now this morning I was at a chamber event. There was about 150 people there. At the very last second, I got asked to make a couple of announcements to the group. And after that 1 second of like, I gotta go do what? It was that the all of that just kind of kicked in. Okay, take a deep breath, ignore the butterflies, just say what you gotta say, enunciate, hand the microphone back to the MC,
Yeah.
and get off the stage without falling on your butt. Uh, so it all comes back around, you
Yeah.
know, in one way or another.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's then the next part was just people see New York as being this big place with so many people and feel like everybody's disconnected. But it's really not. You've got really small pockets of community where everybody gets to know each other. And people are supportive of each other and help pick each other up when they're down. And that aspect of community and the way you do, if you see a friend struggling, you see a neighbor struggling, you do what you can. If there's nothing you can do to fix the situation, you're at least there to hear them out about it. And I mean, that has just kind of played into everything I do, whether it's been in the counseling realm or now the coaching realm.
So, who's been your inspiration, muse, hero that's allowed you to
Ooh,
become who you are today?
oh gosh. I wish I could say there's this one person. Um, I tend to be a little bit too eclectic in my interest and the things that inspire me to kind of land on one person or one thing. Um, that being said, anytime I've seen somebody who has this great combination of composure and confidence, but approachability, that has always inspired me. So I guess if I'm going to kind of think back to who I really felt like I first really jumped out at me, my sixth grade teacher um, was just very inventive, very creative in what he had us do. Was could be a lot of fun, but when we were as kids getting a little too out of hand, could bring us back around and command that respect and command the room and keep us learning, growing, not just gaining our knowledge, but growing as individuals. And when it came to teachers or whether it came to how I conducted myself with others, I think I've gone back to that. How can I make sure that I have that exude that confidence, but also have that approachability that people can feel like they can be who they are and let their guard down with me at the same time.
So, when you decided that you were going to coach, you were going to get
Oh,
into
I
like,
just lost your sound.
oh, you did.
Well, there you
It-
go. That's
okay.
better.
Okay, cool. So, when you decided that you wanted to be a life coach, it's
Hmm.
obviously a career transition for you.
Yeah.
What was the confirmation that you made the right choice? Did you have a seminal client in the beginning? Did you have an epiphany? What was it that convinced you that you made the right choice?
Gosh, I really didn't know exactly what life coaching was. Um, I had heard the term. I kind of thought of it as this kind of frou-frou thing, um, being from a more clinical background. I was like, well, how much real validity does this actually have, right? Um, so when I was sitting down and contemplating for myself, what do I want next? Um, what what I came back to is I've spent 14 years working in brain injury rehabilitation. Folks who very suddenly had all of their skills, physical skills, cognitive skills, change very abruptly in a moment. And while a lot of them made some really great recovery, most of them were left with at least some residual changes in how they functioned. And part of what my role was there was to help people figure out, well, what am I like now? And what does that mean? And how do I optimize that for my life? Not only helping them figure that out, but helping them figure out what strategies, how do I approach things a little bit differently than I did before to be able to be successful if I can't do it the way I used to.
Yeah.
And very often, those clients would say towards the end of their treatment, I wish I had known some of the things that you've been teaching me before this ever happened to me, because they just make sense and it just would have made my life easier. That stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I came back to it when I was thinking about what do I really want to do? I love those moments. Um, and so I was like, what can I do that does that? That helps people learn some of this stuff, figure it out so that their lives can just be easier and they can do things differently and experience success. And as I started to do some research into all of that, this life coaching stuff kept coming back up. And so it was actually the other way around. It was, I was so clear that this was what I really wanted to bring. And when I found out that life coaching was a forum to do that, I knew like this is where I need to be.
So, if you could meet one person on the planet right now that you find inspirational, their story is fascinating, that might help you on your journey in coaching and living on this planet, is there anyone you would love to meet and talk to?
Mm. And so many people,
There's a
so,
lot.
so many people.
You could
Uh,
roundtable it if you need to.
right? Like who would you fill the room
That's
with,
it.
right? Um, Gosh, so many people. I'm gonna go for somebody along the lines of like a Robert Downey Jr.,
Yeah,
somebody who's went through some really rough stuff, found a way to turn it around, and is now very well respected in what he does. Is a mentor to others from based on what you read. Um, but yet it still comes across as fun
yeah,
and approachable. Um, that's the balance I like to see.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So, what is it that gives you the energy to do this work that you do? And you also probably have to protect yourself. When you get in the business of human beings and their psychology, it can get murky. So how do
Mhm.
you protect yourself, keep yourself at the top of your game? You have a soul, you have people in your life. What is the energy for you to do all of this at a good, solid, high level every day?
Yeah, great question. Um, that's one of the reasons why I find coaching appealing at this point in life is it is more focused on what are we doing? How do we get where we're going? That there may be this obstacle and we can get around it. We just haven't figured it out yet. Rather than spending a lot of time where traditional counseling is a little bit more focused on what's the diagnosis and how are we treating the problem. I'm not looking to delve really deep into psychology. Do we touch on mindset? Do we touch on how our own self-doubts and our own self-talk impact our ability to move forward? Definitely. That's not our primary focus on fixing that. So that's one way that I find kind of insulates me. Having a coaching group that I still participate in. I belong to a group that is available to me every week if I need them to say, hey, I'm struggling with this, or hey, this happened and I could use a little input. Having that resource available to me is a big one. And then the rest of it comes down to practicing what I preach. If I'm trying to help people figure out what they need to do and how they need to set things up so they don't feel overwhelmed, so they don't feel stuck, so that feel like they're moving forward to the next thing, I need to do that for myself. So when I notice those feelings creeping in, I sit down and I'm like, okay, what would we tell somebody else? What are we going to do? How do we need to switch up our approach to move through this obstacle that's coming our way? Because they don't stop coming. Life just puts new ones in our path for us to
Yeah,
kind of navigate all the time.
for sure. So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight, you ran into that young Brooklyn version of you before you moved, and you walked into the room right now, and there was a film projector, and you click play, and a 60-second highlight reel of your life came up, would that young version of you believe your life turned out this way?
Oh no,
Hmm,
no. One, she would have an incredibly hard time believing that I was very happy living in other places. Um, for being in such a big metropolitan place, the world view was very small at that point. To be able to appreciate that you could be happy in other places and having different experiences, that would have been a hard one for her to swallow. I think. that's probably the biggest one. I think the other thing that she might be surprised at is that there were times when we didn't have it all figured out
Yeah.
because she's at that point really thought there's a way to figure it all out.
So what would you be the proudest of when you looked at that highlight reel? What stands out as something that you're the proudest of?
Ooh. Well, I'm gonna say something that, pretty typical, but my kids.
Yeah.
And that's something that would have surprised my young self. My young self never would have imagined that so much of my joy, my pride was from being a mom. Um, but definitely my kids. But also that thing of when we didn't have it figured out, when plan A fell flat on its face, sitting down, picking ourselves up, dusting ourselves off, and figuring out, okay, so what now? And and just doing that as many times as you need to.
Yeah. So you already talked about retirement and finding this. When you sit down and think about retirement now, and that big word comes up in your mind, what do you think about? How does that factor in?
Um, I am very clear that right now I am enjoying things way too much to think about retiring. Um, I know a lot of folks who can't wait, who are living every day just trying to get through until they're ready to retire. I'm more like I'm having fun. I think I still have more to do, and I'm ready. I'm ready to do as much as the world will let me do. So I'm not real focused on being retired. When I really think about it and know that it's gonna, God willing, happen at some point, it's more about how am I going to make sure that I am around the people that I care the most about? How can I continue to do things like what I'm doing in a different way so I can, these skills that I have been honing all these years, I can still use them to benefit others, even if it isn't in a traditional job kind of way.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. In these career changes and everything that you've been through, different geographical places you've lived, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you in all these different bubbles in the Venn diagram. But you run the id, ego, superego, what we see. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, oh gosh, who am I? I think that I am compassionate but focused and sometimes more willing to accept others than I'm willing to bring down my own mask,
Yeah.
which is something I'm still working on and growing in. Um, but I used to say that I had an overinflated sense of responsibility, that it felt like when something needed to be done, something needed to be handled, if there was something to keep track of, somebody needed something done, that I was very likely to come in, take that on, take care of all the details. I was good, although I hate paperwork, I was great at paperwork because I wanted to make sure it was done right because I felt a responsibility to do it right. Um, I would still say there's a that is still very much there, kind of an overinflated sense of responsibility. But I've taught her to chill out a little bit over the years.
Yeah.
and focus on the details that are the most impactful instead of everything at
Yeah.
once.
Yeah. So if anybody's ready for the next step, they want life coach, well, they want life coaching, they have questions, they want to reach out. What's the best way, the next step for them right now?
Yeah, so I offer individual and small group coaching. Um, and the first thing I always suggest is for somebody to schedule an initial consultation that I do for free, just to make sure it's the right fit, um, and figure out what might be the best approach for each person. A real easy way right now to get involved for somebody to kind of try coaching on for size is I started a something called the Act Momentum Method, and it's a 6 week coaching program, and it's a combination of small group sessions and one-on-one sessions geared towards getting aligned with what's important to us, getting clear on what's getting in our way, and figuring out what actions to take to start to create change, to reduce the amount of overwhelm and increase the focus when somebody feels like, I keep saying I want things to be different, but I'm just not doing it. It's a really great way to figure out what type of coaching works best for me and let me get a little feel for this and get a great jump start on really starting to make things happen. And so, again, a great way to do that is to go to my website, which is just very simply kellylifecoach.com, nothing fancy there.
Yeah.
Um, or message me through Facebook or Instagram, and we can chat a little bit or set up an initial consultation. And I'm really big on, like I said, coaches come in all flavors and styles, and I want to make sure that I'm the right fit for each person I work with.
Sounds wonderful. I will put that link in the show notes, but I have to know before we get out of here, what do you miss about Brooklyn and what do you love about living in Arlington?
Oh gosh. What do I miss about Brooklyn? The food,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
The food. I miss being able to hop on a bus or a train or walk and get to a zillion different places.
Yeah.
If you spend any time in Texas, it's not really conducive to walking. A lot of driving.
Yeah.
Public transportation is starting to get there, but it's got a long ways to go. Um, so I miss the ease of that.
Yeah.
Um, Arlington is a great little city. It's nestled right in between Dallas and Fort Worth. Drive 20 minutes in either direction. And within itself, it's really one of the most culturally diverse places. Um, not only in Texas, but I think, compared to a lot of states, so we've got a lot of different things going on here at any point in time. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people say, oh, I can go to a Cowboys game or I can go to Six Flags. I don't really do that stuff, but there's plenty of other things going on here that there's never a loss for things to do.
Never a dull moment. I love it.
Yeah.
Kelly, thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. I'll put all these links in the show notes. Continued success. This has been great. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity, and same to you. Thanks so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.